Nova. Lydia. I hand the phone over to Linus after calling the house and letting Kian know we're on our way back. We have been sitting outside the palace gates since noon and now it's evening and we haven't been able to see or hear anything. It's like nothing's happening. We've begged the guards at the gate over and over again to let us in, but they didn't budge. Instead, they gave us a warning. Kian also says Nova's been crying the whole day and won't even eat anything. I'm going home so I can try and be there for her, comfort her. Otherwise, I don't know what else to do. I wish Jabari were here. I really need him right now. Linus can take Kian and they can come back. We were sitting on the sidewalk next to the car, so we get up, but just as I touch the door handle, I catch something from the corner of my eye, causing me to stop and look back. I see a black SUV emerge inside the yard, followed by a black sports car and another SUV behind it. They drive up to the gate and the guards at the gate open for them, also saying something to the driver of the SUV in front. He slides down his window and I notice that he's wearing a black suit and has an earpiece on, making him look like a bodyguard. They must be escorting whoever's in the sports car. Could he or she be the reason why the palace was closed down? Are they going to open now? They exit the gates and my heartbeat starts accelerating as they drive in our direction. Please let them open now. Let whatever was happening be over, I mutter, watching the cars and waiting for them to pass so I can walk back to the guards and inquire again. Even though they made it clear they've had enough of us, but I'm desperate. The cars seem to drive past us before the sports car in the middle suddenly stops, almost causing the SUV in the back to drive into it. I look at Linus and find him looking at me as they suddenly reverse to us, causing us to look at each other again. Wary God, I mutter, swallowing hard as I involuntarily take a step back past our car, looking at them without blinking as my heart starts beating faster and faster. The SUV that was driving in the back reverses past us and the black sports car stops right in front of us. We both take a step back this time, my hand unconsciously reaching for Linus as the driver's door swings up vertically and I notice the men in the SUVs getting out of the cars too. Linus, I whisper, my voice a slight quaver to it, watching the driver of the sports car slide out of his seat, but my eyes widen the moment I see his face. What in God's name? I whisper, looking at someone who looks like Ares, the prince who died in a plane crash months ago. I mother of God, I hear Linus say as I jam my back into his front, continuing to take steps back for every step he takes forward. Lydia, it's okay, it's me, he says, stopping and raising his hands in surrender, and I freeze hearing his voice. Nolan? I whisper, shocked, confused before giving him a once-over. Yes, it's me, he says, slowly advancing to us again, but we involuntarily step back again, still cautious. Why is he like this? Why do you look like Dash? Ares ***, he finishes up for me. I am Ares. Lydia, my name. My real name is Ares, he says, stopping in front of us. It's a long story, one I will gladly tell you all about, but first, I have to see my girl, he says, and I can see it. I can see it's really Nolan, but how? He invites me to drive with him and Linus takes the car, since the car he's driving can only fit 2 people, plus I think he wants to talk to me alone. Since he's not aware that Linus knows about werewolves, he asks one of his security detail for a phone after letting me inside the car, and asks me for the house number. I give it to him, not being able to tear my gaze away from him the whole time. Besides the fact that he literally looks different, he seems different. His posture, the voice though recognizable, is a bit different. He's a prince. You can feel it. He settles in the driver's seat before pressing on the engine while dialing the number. Nova. I hear footsteps walking down the stairs before hearing the cell door open, and I turn to my side, facing away from the door, some of the wolfbane still in my system, and I feel like death. I woke up in this cell-like room, and I haven't felt my wolf since. I don't know what kind of magic's in here, but I know I'm very weak. I hear Kian's footsteps coming closer to the bed, I guess he's sure I won't attack him now 'cause he hasn't come inside this cell the whole day. I feel him walk up to me and stand right behind me, but I don't care. I don't acknowledge him. I don't even move. He can inject me with more wolfbane if he wants. In fact, the higher the dosage, the better. I have no will to fight or live. All I want is someone to rip my heart out of my chest. Since I'm unable to, I've tried to put my hand inside my heart and do it myself, but I can't. Not without my wolf strength. Nolan saved my life so many times, but I couldn't save him. I didn't want him to go out there. I was afraid, but I let him go. I shouldn't have let him convince me. I should have told him no. I should have done whatever it took. I should have known better. I know how palaces work. Now my Nolan is gone, the love of my life. My mate is gone. Kian keeps telling me I don't know that there could be some other explanation, but I can feel it in the books I read about mates. They say it hurts like your heart's been ripped out of your chest when your mate dies, and that's how I feel right now. My heart is throbbing. I can't even breathe. I feel Kian place something cold against my ear before saying, "Go ahead," and my heart almost stops hearing the voice I thought I'd never hear again. "Nolan?" I ask, sitting up on the bed, the phone almost slipping out of my hand as they start to tremble even more. "Yes, my love. It's me," he says, and I start audibly crying on the phone. He's alive. My mate's alive. Kian walks out of the cell after giving me a firm squeeze on the shoulder, but I don't even acknowledge him. I thought I lost my mate forever. I thought he was gone. He tells me he's sorry and tries to talk to me, but my replies come out incoherent as I keep on choking on my sobs every time I open my mouth. My voice hoarse from all the crying, realizing trying to have a conversation is not working out. He tells me he loves me and is on his way back. I jump off the bed after ending the call, almost falling as my knees give in. I can't wait to get out of this damned room. Kian left the door open since there's no reason to keep me locked up anymore. My mate's alive and he's on his way back to me. I feel my strength returning the moment I exit the cell. My throat also healing as I feel Carla once again, and I run up the stairs calling out for Kian. But he doesn't respond. He's probably downstairs. It's weird though, 'cause he should be able to hear me even from down there. "Kian." I call out to him again, running down the staircase, but my eyes widen and I come to an abrupt stop, looking at the face I never thought I'd ever see again. "A Travis?" I mutter, looking at my father's beta. "Wide-eyed, my lady," he says with a neck bow, and I look on his left to see Kian pinned to the floor with what looks to be a collar around his neck. "The king asks that you come home. He never reported you to the council. No harm will come to you." I figured my father never reported me when we heard that they said I was kidnapped by Nolan. But that still doesn't change anything. He reported Nolan. He painted him out as an abductor, and now he's being hunted. I can never go back. He should know that I'm not going anywhere with you, Travis, I tell him, tossing the phone on the couch before starting to shift, but my breath catches in my throat as something pieces the back of my neck. I turn around to find a guy with a dart gun and I feel a surge of rage, but more darts hit my neck from the other direction, causing me to stagger, feeling my strength draining my body as the familiar poison makes its way into my bloodstream. I try to hold on to the railings unsuccessfully and I collapse before rolling down the stairs and hitting my head on the hard tiles. And Nolan's name's the last thing I mutter before my lights go out. Lydia. We arrive home and no Aries. God, it feels weird saying that. He tells the guards to wait for him outside. They open our doors and we exit the car and head inside the house. Aries told me everything on our drive home and I can't believe it. I can't believe he's been Aries Silver this whole time and no one noticed. But then again, most people, like me, probably never had the opportunity to see the prince up close. I only ever saw him on TV or from a distance. Surrounded by guards, the people who stood a chance of recognizing him are most likely the people up there, but he wasn't with the people up there. He was down here with us. The people who could never get close to him. As a prince he rushes in, but suddenly stops, his eyes flashing silver for a moment before running up the staircase calling out for Nova. "What's wrong?" "Wolves," he shouts back. And just then Linus calls me, picking up something that looks like a dart from the floor. "What is that?" I ask, stepping up to him, and just then Aries comes down, saying Nova's not upstairs or in the basement. I told him we had her locked down there. And I could see he didn't like it by his grip on the steering wheel when I told him, but he didn't say anything. He understood we didn't like it either, but we were trying to save her life. What do you mean? I ask him, alarmed, noticing the panic on his face. His eyes now silver again as he tells me people were here. He says he's picking up different wolf scents. Linus calls the neighbors and asks them if they saw people coming into the house, but they don't recall seeing anyone, and just as he places the phone down, it rings. Linus picks it up, but suddenly turns to us with a look I can't describe, but sends shivers down my spine. That was the hospital. Kian's been in an accident, he says, and I swear, I feel my heart stop for a moment, my knees turning to jelly as I immediately fill with terror. What do you mean hospital? I just spoke to him now. Aries asks, supporting me as I suddenly feel dizzy. I can't lose my son. He's all I've got. I push away from Aries and we head to the exit. Linus telling him what the nurse said, but I don't even hear them. Aries takes one of the SUVs and Linus and I get inside before he speeds out of the driveway, the other one following closely behind, and we get to the hospital in record time. Are you going in like that? Linus asks Aries as he jumps out of the car, and he curses, realizing he has a point. He's not a regular person now. He can't just go into places. He's Aries Silver. The prince's presence will cause a commotion, especially since people still think he's dead. Here, put this on, Linus says, giving him his cap and spectacles. It's not much, but better than just going in like this, and maybe, because people aren't expecting him, it will do. We run inside the hospital, and we are shown to a waiting room and asked to wait for a doctor. Linus takes my hand as I start to tremble, anxious. What terrifies me the most is the fact that he's in hospital. What have they done to him that would make him end up in a hospital? How bad is he? The nurse didn't say anything about Nova being here, but we are still hopeful that she is, and if not, Kian knows where she is. The doctor finally comes, but he doesn't want to take us to Kian just yet. He says he needs to speak to me alone first, saying he has questions about the metal collar around Kian's neck, but I don't know what he's talking about. I tell him I don't know about the collar and just want to see my son, but a small scream escapes my mouth as Aries suddenly grabs him by the shoulders. Before slamming him against the wall, he looks him in the eye and starts giving him orders to let us see Kian and to forget about the collar and this conversation. The doctor's eyes remain wide open the whole time, not even blinking, and when Aries tells him to take us to Kian's room, he simply agrees like he's being mind-controlled. My God, he is. I've heard vampires can do that. We walk inside to find Kian hooked on machines, and tears run down my face, taking in his state. As I rush up to him, the doctor tells us he's given him some sedatives, and that he was brought in by someone who saw him jump out of a moving car. Aries walks up to us and breaks the collar around his neck, causing him to sit up gasping. They took Nova, he says, as I engulf him in a hug and I pull back to notice his wounds have started healing. Aries asks him who did, causing Kian to turn and look at him, and his eyes widen, shocked as he whispers the name Travis, causing Aries to freeze. Travis? Aries. I don't fucking believe this, I mutter, rubbing my hands in frustration as Lydia and Linus ask Kian who Travis is. He tells them it's the Nova King's beta, but their voices start to fade to the background as rage starts coursing through my veins. I take out the phone I got from Mateus and dial Gale, my pilot, to get the jet ready. I have to go to Nova. I turn to Lydia and the guys and tell them I will call them before rushing out of the room. Before they can reply, I know I should have explained a little bit more, but I don't have time. I was a nobody the last time I was in Nova, but now I'm not anybody anymore. Yes, I'm still a vampire, but there's nothing they or I can do about that. Nova is my mate, and this time they can't keep us apart. I get home to find the place quiet. It seems everybody has left. It's only staff roaming around looking like they are tidying up for the night. They bow when they see me and I acknowledge them with a quick nod as I rush past them heading to my father's room, but finding it empty. Fuck. He's in the throne room. My prince, I hear someone say. and quickly take off in that direction. I haven't had time to stop and let it sink in. Even though I'm home and remember who I am, I'm no longer myself. I'm a vampire now, which means there are certain things I'm unable to do, like mind link, since I need Atticus for that back in Worcester during that fight with Vance. When he killed Jabari, I growled, and that was Atticus. But I don't know how. I have some of his strengths, but I don't know how it works now. I don't have control like before. He's not there. I can't feel him. I feel tears welling in my eyes at that thought. So I quickly push it back. This is no time to fall apart. I find my father and the councilman up on their feet, and they bow as I enter. My father walking up to me with a look of relief on his face that soon falters as he takes in my expression. The Grand Elder, Marcus, tells me it's good to see me before bowing again and bidding my father and me good night. What is it? Where is she? My father asks as they make their way out of the crown room. She's in my room. She's tired. I will introduce you in the morning. Oh, then what's wrong? Nothing I can speak to you about right now. I just wanted you to know that I'm back and safe. I will see you in the morning. I tell him and pull him into a hug before he can respond. You're not going to see your brother first? I was waiting for you, he asks in the hug, and I tell him I will speak to him in the morning. We pull back after that, and I walk out of the room. I hate doing this to my father, but I have no time to be diplomatic right now. For all I know, Duncan's shipping my mate straight to Kellen. I head to my room to take a quick shower and change using my vampire speed. This tux is too tight. I'm surprised to find everything still the way I left it. I can't wait to see my brother when I return and deal with Cora. I head out, making sure I don't run into my father, and I breathe a sigh of relief when I exit the gates, speeding to the airport. Armand Hagen. Warning: the chapter contains a bit of violence and may be triggering to some. Nova. Don't touch me. I scream at Travis as he tries to help me out of the car, but it's not much of a scream. Since my voice is hoarse from all the crying I've done for the past many hours, I imagine it to be noon, but strange enough, it's quiet. I don't see a soul. I guess the king doesn't want his people to see their lady in chains. I have often dreamed of this place. When I was out there on the streets, I longed for it. I longed for the love, the warmth I used to feel here. But right now everything I feel is overshadowed by the void in my heart. The guards open the doors, and I step inside. Oh God. My baby. My mother says, engulfing me in a hug, sobbing as she squeezes tighter, and I can't help but break down too. Surprised by her action. The last time I saw my mother, I had my fingers wrapped around her heart, and I might not have removed it. But I broke it. I chose a vampire over them, and I thought she'd be angry at me. I thought they had brought me back so they can send me off to Brakendal and save themselves from embarrassment. I thought that was the only reason. They even lied to everyone. She pulls back, cupping my face, tears flowing from her eyes before pulling me into a hug again, telling me how scared she was and how sorry she is. I badly want to hug her back, but I can't since I have the cuffs on. She seems to read my mind, and as she pulls back and asks Travis to take them off, but a loud gasp startles us, causing us to snap our heads in its direction, and my heart ceases in my chest, my eyes wide in shock, seeing my father coughing out blood, a man's hand deep inside his chest. My mother screams, but I stagger, unable to utter a word as the perpetrator's face comes into view. If you think about linking anyone, if you so much as breathe, you will regret it, he warns, looking between my mother and the guards. Welcome home, my lady, he adds, now looking at me, and my knees hit the floor. My mother follows suit, her hands now clamped over her mouth, muffling her screams. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? She asks, causing Vance to look at me. She knows why. He spits, his voice laced with venom. What are you talking about? You cannot possibly think you will get away with this. My mother continues, pulling me in her arms as tears trail down my face, but Vance doesn't respond. He looks past us, and we follow his eyes to see Travis on his knees before falling on his face, the 4 guards who were with him standing over him. Lock him up, he instructs, and they start dragging Travis away. They are betraying my father? My mother calls them by their names, asking them if they're sure they want to betray their king, but they ignore her and exit with an unconscious Travis. The king welcomes you and treats you as an honored guest in his home, and this is how you repay him? Please, don't even try to act all high and mighty with me, like you and your king are any decent. He spits, his voice loud. You did this to yourselves, you turned your people against you. What? You are out of your mind. No, you were. The night you and your king slaughtered innocent people all to protect this filthy vampire fucking slut you call a daughter. He adds, causing my mother's eyes to widen and mine mirror hers. Shocked, yes, princess. Your whoring ways cost families, sons, fathers, and brothers. How do you think he was able to lie to everyone and say the vampire kidnapped you when he didn't? He killed everyone who knew the truth and continued sending more innocent men out there so you and your vampire lover can kill them when I'm king. Treason will not be washed by the blood of innocents. When you are king. My mother cuts him off, letting go of me and getting back to her feet. You think anybody can just show up, hold the king hostage and seize the throne? You think it's that easy? Mother spits, but Vance just smirks before closing his eyes and opening them again. And I gasp as his aura cuts through me like cold glass, submitting me. Since my wolf is suppressed by the collar, who are you? I hear my mother's breathy voice ask, and I look up to see his eyes red. What the hell? You don't mind swapping a younger Hagen for an older one, do you, sweetheart? He says, looking at me before looking at my mother again. I take it you've been answered, my queen. He mocks, causing me to look at her confused red velvet eyes. Belong to the Blood Fury pack, and his aura is not of an ordinary wolf. Kellen has an older brother? The 4 guards return with collars and chains. They put one around my father's neck and tie his hands up with chains before moving and doing the same to my mother. I'm already in a collar and chains, so they just pull me up, take them, and do as I told you. He orders, retrieving his hand from my father's heart, causing him to fall on his knees, gasping. Some more blood coming out of his mouth and his chest. Since he has the collar now and won't heal, he leaves him and walks over to me before picking me up and wrapping his hand around my throat. If you try anything, I will break her fucking neck, he warns, looking over at my father, who has a pained, defeated look on his face. Before the guards walk up to him, they remove the collar for a moment, and the blood that was trickling down his chest stops, and they clamp it back on again. Now get up and do as you are told, he orders, his hand finding the back of my head as he starts walking, dragging me by my hair. The 4 men walk ahead with my parents, and I realize they are taking them to their bedroom. Where are you taking her? Where are you going with my daughter? My mother asks, seeing that he's dragging me in the opposite direction. I'm going to get her ready, he says, and my mother screams, begging him not to take me, but he doesn't listen, and I hear the guards forcing my parents inside the room as they struggle, trying to follow Vance. He takes me to my room and throws me on the floor, and I groan on impact. Not so tough now without your vampire lover, are you? He taunts, grabbing me by my hair and pulling me up again, causing me to hiss in pain, not resisting as he tilts my head backward. Look at me, he screams in my face, ripping off the band-aid around his eye. You are going to pay for this. You are going to pay for killing my Astrid, for all of it, he grits, his voice coming out eerily low towards the end, a deranged look in his eye. I'm going to take your father's kingdom, and I'm going to do as I please with you, and there's nothing you, your pathetic parents, or that sheet-looking piece of shit can do about it. He adds, his grip on my hair tightening, causing me to hiss louder before pressing his lips against mine. I shiver in disgust as he forcefully slides his tongue inside my mouth, and I try to get away, but his grip on my hair keeps me from going anywhere. So I do the only thing I can. I bite his lower lip and remove a chunk of it before kneeing him in the crotch. He lets me go, groaning in pain before his hand connects with my face, sending me flying to the floor. Fucking bitch, he roars, his eyes immediately turning red as I spit out the chunk I bit off. You're going to regret that, he bellows, bending down and grabbing me by my hair again. As I try to slide back, I scratch him, but choke my eyes wide when his hand finds my throat. Clamping down my airway, he picks me up by my neck and throws me on the bed before getting on top of me and straddling me, causing me to scream as he pins my hands above my head with one hand. Before unbuttoning my jeans, he rips them off, leaving me naked. Since I don't have any panties on, I hadn't had time to get myself any yet. There weren't any on the clothes on the boat. I scream as loud as I can, writhing under him, but it's no use. He's too strong for my human self. Vance, please. I'm sorry, I beg, fear taking over when he removes his belt. Anything but this. He doesn't reply and roughly parts my legs with his knees after lowering his pants, but there's a knock on the door that causes him to pause for a second, glancing at it before ignoring it and continuing with what he's doing. Positioning himself, I scream again, desperate. Even though I know the person on the other side won't hear me and is most likely one of his traitor guards and doesn't care, but I am scared. The banging becomes louder and he cusses, letting go of my hands before getting off of me and pulling up his pants as he walks to the door. Vance. What is it? I ask, ripping the door open to be met with a spooked-looking Grayson. You need to stop this whole thing, he says, making me confused. What are you talking about? The vampire we've been hunting isn't a vampire. It's Aries Silver. He's alive, he says, causing my frown to deepen. What the hell is he on? What do you mean the vampire's Aries Silver? I mean exactly that Aries Silver is alive. He was never dead. That's impossible. I've seen the vampire. I even fought it, and it's definitely a vampire and not Aries Silver. It didn't have silver hair or silver eyes. Listen, I don't know how, but I got this information from a reliable source. Aries Silver is alive, and you told me yourself that he and this girl are lovers. Not what Kane would have us believe. That's absurd. How would he go from Leakin to a vampire? I told you I don't know. Maybe you and Kane saw wrong. Maybe he's not a vampire. That's bullshit. I know the difference between a vampire and a Leakin. That thing doesn't even have a heartbeat, I tell him, and he lets out a frustrated sigh, burying his fingers in his hair. Listen to me, I don't have answers for you. I don't know how he was a vampire, but I know Aries Silver is alive, and it changes everything. I can't be here. What do you mean? I need you to witness this union for it to be valid. You can't leave. I can't be here when Aries gets here, he says, and I grab him by the shoulders. He cannot leave me. I need him. I cannot back down when I'm this close. It won't matter if what he's saying is true. When I wed Nova, I'll be a king and be absolved of my prior crimes. The law will protect me. Grayson, I need you. You've been by my side this whole time. You can't abandon me now when I'm this close. I will send for the priest now and we'll make the ceremony quick. By the time Aries or whoever realizes, it'll be too late. There'll be nothing he can do. He's no exception from the law. Please just give me 30 minutes. And then you can get as far away from here as you want. That's too risky, Armand. Silvera is 10 hours away, and he doesn't even know she's here. I was here when the head guard called. After securing her, Kane told me the vampire wasn't there. He's not going to automatically know she's here. He must still search. And by the time he finds out, the marriage will be done and consummated. Please just stay for 30 minutes longer. That's all I ask. You forget one thing. Her parents. The plan hasn't changed. It's still as we discussed. I will kill them. When how? You no longer have time to organize a believable death for them now. If he shows up here, it's over. Unless I kill him. What? Have you lost your mind? How in the hell will you do that? He'll probably show up here with an army. No, he won't bring an army to her father's door. He won't start a war with them as far as he will know. Kane's men took her, so he'll come alone or maybe with a guard or two, but I'll be able to take care of that. Look, I know you're scared, but believe me when I tell you this. That thing out there is not a leak and it's a vampire, and Kane has been working on a room to trap it ever since his daughter ran away. If he's Aries like you say, he'll come here thinking being him is enough and walk right into my trap. What about his father? Say you succeed and kill him, what will you say to the king? I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, and you'll be long gone. It won't be your problem. I'll be king of this castle. He'll be asking me, I assure him. And he rubs his hands over his face in frustration before saying he's giving me 30 minutes to bring Nova out and get on with it. I'm glad he came to his senses. I didn't want to have to threaten him. He walks to the hall after that, and I take out my phone and call one of the guards. Get the message out, tell them it's from the king. If someone shows up here saying they are Aries Silver, let me know before you let them in. Yes, my lord. But isn't Prince Aries dead? Yes, he is. But someone is going around pretending to be him. Look, just do as I say, understood? Yes, my lord. I sigh and turn around, opening Nova's door. Feeling stupid for even giving out that order. There's no way that vampires Aries. How did he become a vampire? Hair can be dyed, but where are his silver eyes? 'Cause I've stared into that thing's eyes, and they aren't silver. I shake my head, but come to an abrupt stop. Suddenly remembering what Astrid said. She said he was concealed. Could it be true? Could his appearance have changed somehow? But how would he change from Leakin to a vampire? It's impossible, and I've come too far to let some rumor stand in my way. Nova. I get off the bed, my knees trembling as I run to the bathroom. I lock the door behind me before sliding to the floor, my heart beating like it's going to fall out of my chest as I break down, calling Nolan's name when I was locked up in that cabin crying. A part of me was hoping Nolan doesn't come for me, even though I knew that was impossible. Since Kian escaped and heard what Travis said, I didn't want Kian to die. But I was scared for Nolan. He was able to get me out of here the first time. But my parents weren't prepared then. I knew this time they'd be prepared, and he wouldn't make it out of here alive. I didn't want him to die. I was conflicted, but right now I'd give anything for him to walk through this door and save me. I try to pull on the collar on my neck even though I know it's pointless, and just then Vance speaks, ordering me to come out. I don't move, but scream. When he breaks the door in half, I jam myself into the corner, continuing to scream with my raspy voice as he grabs me by the cuffs in my hands, causing them to dig into my skin. When he starts dragging me out, Vance, I'm sorry, please. Don't do this, please. I beg again as he drags me towards the bed, and he stops. We'll finish this later. Get dressed. We need to get downstairs now, he says, and heads to my closet. He takes out a dress and throws it in my face. I take it and immediately try to put it on, just wanting to cover myself. But I can't since I'm handcuffed. He sees my struggle and takes the keys out of his pocket and uncuffs me. Look at me, he says, roughly grabbing my jaw. If you annoy me, your bitch mother dies. Do you hear me? He asks, and I nod. Good, he says, letting go of my jaw before kicking the shoes over to me. Where are you taking me? You'll see, he simply replies, looking at himself in the mirror before instructing me to go and wash my face, telling me I look like shit. I do as he says. I don't want him to hurt my parents or force himself on me. I'd rather he hit me. I'd rather he do anything but that. After washing my face, he grabs my hand and drags me out of the room. The palace is eerily quiet as we make our way down the corridors, heading downstairs, and I wonder where everyone is. What has he done with them? I realize he's leading me to the hall, but my eyes widen when we walk inside to find Father Collins. He's a human priest. We've interacted a few times at the orphanage. He tries to smile at me, but fails, and I don't miss the unshed tears in his eyes that he's desperately holding back. Why is he here? What is this? I ask, looking at Vance. We are getting married. What? I ask, stepping away from him, shocked by his words. Remember what I said about annoying me, he warns, pulling me back to him. But I can't marry him. I can't do it. No, I shake my head, trying to pry my hand out of his. I will not marry him. I won't do it. I'd rather die than marry you, I add, and his eyes flash red before he turns and nods. I follow his eyes to notice there's someone else in the room, sitting on the front row, and my eyes widen, seeing who it is. Councilman Grayson? What is he doing here? Is he in this too? Or is Vance forcing him like Father Collins? He's my father's friend. He comes to my father all the time. He's got a tablet with him, and I gasp when he turns it around. What about your parents? Would you rather they die too? I hear Vance's voice as one of the guards slowly starts putting his hand inside my mother's chest, and I scream for him to stop. I will do it, just stop, please. I will marry you, I tell him, and a sob escapes Father Collins's mouth, a stray tear running down his cheek. With a terrified look in his eyes, Vance grabs my hand and pulls me closer to him again. Before ordering Father Collins to start and make it quick, he looks at me the whole time, but I can't look at him. I hate him so much, and all I want to do is just lie down and die. I can't believe this is happening just a few hours ago. We thought we had gotten away, that we survived. How did everything change so fast? The councilman, who hasn't looked at me once, takes the rings out of his pocket and gives them over to Vance. Father Collins asks Vance to repeat after him, and he does. But when it's my turn, I can't. He squeezes my hand tighter, crushing my fingers, but I can't bring myself to say the words, and I fall on my knees. But just then, the hall door that was closed pushes open, and I gasp, my eyes wide, looking at the man who just walked in. But a scream escapes me as blood splatters everywhere before Councilman Grayson's head rolls down the floor and stops just a foot from us. After he tried to make a run for it, I hear a thud behind me, and I know it's Father Collins. Impossible, I hear Vance mutter as the Silver Prince, who died months ago, stands before us. I get to my feet, unconsciously stepping back as a cold shiver runs down my spine, feeling the hair at the back of my neck stand. But just then he looks up at me, and I freeze when our eyes meet. Enola Dash. I start to whisper, shocked and confused, but choke as Vance's fingers sink inside my chest, causing blood to come out of my mouth. You move, she's dead, he warns, his voice inhumane, and the white in Nolan's eyes disappears, swallowed by the dark silver, as he tears his gaze away from me and looks at Vance. You took everything from me, and now I'm going to take everything from you. You are going to do exactly what? Dash, I hear Vance start to say, but scream as blood splatters everywhere again. Some on me before his headless body falls next to my feet. I follow it, but familiar arms wrap around my waist, saving me from the fall, and I shudder hearing his voice. You're okay, my love, it's okay, I'm here now. Pawn. Nova. Nolan? My voice breaks at the end as he cups my cheeks, moving my hair out of my face. Yes, my love, it's me, he replies, eyes gleaming with unshed tears, before placing a kiss on my forehead while I tremble, clutching his shirt, not believing that he's really here and not understanding why he looks like this. His hands move to my neck and break the collar, and I shudder when they come in contact with the exposed skin of my back as he wraps his arms around me. I'm sorry I didn't get here sooner, he says, and I bury my face against his chest, now audibly crying and shaking with sobs. He holds me, sliding to the floor before pulling me onto his lap as he continues muttering comforting words, his one arm holding me flush against him while the other strokes my hair. What happened? Why do you look like this? Why do you look like the Silver Prince? I ask, pulling back, looking up at him, noticing that there's something different about his aura. I couldn't feel it when he first came in, cause I had the collar on, but now that he's removed it, I can feel it. He's Nolan. I can see that it's him, even with the silver hair. But at the same time, he feels different. He emanates a different aura. It's darker, more intense. He doesn't reply, but cups my left cheek, gently caressing it, causing me to close my eyes, leaning more into his touch, and I don't even feel myself leaning forward until our lips meet. I shiver as he devours my lips in a kiss that has my whole body littered in goosebumps, leaving me breathless when he pulls back and leans our foreheads together. Because that's who I am, he softly says, causing me to pull back and look at him confused. I remember, my love, he continues, tears gleaming in his eyes, cupping my face. What? My voice comes out breathy for some reason. My name is Aries Anselm Silver III. He adds a tear now escaping his left eye, and I freeze staring at him, taken aback by what he just said. He's Aries Silver? But how? How? I ask. But just then my parents enter the hall, causing us to get up. My mother rushes up to me and I meet her halfway, throwing myself in her arms. And my father joins us too. They pull back after a moment and my eyes widen as they go down on their knees in front of Nolan. They salute him, asking for his forgiveness for everything that happened, but he tells them to rise, saying all is forgiven. How is this possible? How is he? Ares? Ares was a Lycan and he's dead. How is he now a vampire? I ask my parents how they got free and they tell me the guards out of the blue just froze with their eyes glazed over, and the next thing they scurried out of the room. They suspect someone mind-linked them and told them to run. The two that were at the gate bowed when they saw Ares and let him in. My father mind-linked the doctor to come and look at Travis, who was injected with a large dosage of Wolf's bane. The council had been trying to get through to my father the whole time he had the collar on, and when it was removed, they were finally able to, and that's how he found out about Ares. My parents thank and invite Ares to stay for dinner, but he politely declines, saying he didn't inform his father of where he was going and needs to hurry back to Silvera as he will be worried out of his mind, but promises to come back and do the dinner. I look at him, sad. I understand he has to go, but I don't want him to. I don't know how to be without him anymore. Plus, I still have so much to say and so many questions. We still have a lot to talk about. I turn to my parents and open my mouth to speak, wanting to ask them to let me go with him, but he stops me, and my parents bow again, looking at us with a knowing look before asking him if they may be excused. They walk away after that, causing me to turn my attention back to him. I open my mouth to tell him I'm going with him, but gasp as he pulls me flush against him without warning before pressing his lips against mine in a feverish kiss that has me moaning and curling my toes as I wrap my arms around his neck. Okay, the kisses have gotten better too. I didn't think they could, but they did. He pulls back after a long moment, leaving me flushed as his hand moves from the back of my head to my cheek with a different type of smile, one I've never seen him wear but definitely want to all the time from now on. I know you have questions, and I'm going to try and answer all of them now, I promise, but I can't take you with me, he says, causing my brows to shoot up before my face morphs into a scowl. Not understanding what he's saying. I'm a prince now, my love, and as much as that doesn't change anything between us, but there are customs that we have to follow. A prince cannot just go shack up with a princess. I have to follow the proper way of doing things, he says, the last part rubbing our noses together before dotting kisses all over my face, causing me to smile. I know he's right. We are not even supposed to kiss before he asks my father for my hand. I don't want to be a princess, I playfully complain, causing him to chuckle before pecking me on the lips. I know. Sometimes I don't want to be a prince too. We sit down after that and he tells me everything that happened to him in the past 24 hours, and I'm shocked. Nolan Silver. I shoot to my feet, hearing the cell door open. I was up, pacing up and down this cell the whole night, going out of my mind trying to figure out what I'm going to do. How am I going to face father? I even tried to rip my own heart out, but my hand just would do it. It wouldn't touch it. Cora and I were sitting in my room that we now share since we are married, waiting to be called out when it's time to be crowned, but it never happened. Instead, the royal guard marched in and ripped Cora out of my arms before putting the hex cuffs on her, causing my heart to stop. Everything fading to the background as I fell on my knees. The hex cuffs were used to absorb hexes on those hexed by witches. But that's not their only purpose, because they consume magic. When put on a witch, they render that witch powerless until they are taken off. It was obvious we were busted, and it was over. We were done. They dragged Cora away, screaming, and I waited for them to subdue me as the tears that I desperately tried to hold back rolled down my cheeks, but they didn't. They told me the king had ordered that I be taken to a cell too. Before helping me back to my feet, I was too shaken to resist, so I didn't. I could see they were wary, prepared for a struggle, but I didn't have the will to fight, and even if I did, they would have been disappointed as they would not have faced what they were expecting. I'm not a silver, therefore not a Lycan, but no one knows that, or at least no one that I'm aware of. And even if I were, I had no strength. My world was crumbling, and I knew my life was over. Even if They only discovered that Cora was a witch and knew nothing about what we did. Fraternizing with a witch is treason and is punishable by death, son of a king or not, and I'm not even his real son. Tears immediately fall as I take in my father's scent before he comes into my view with an expression I can't decipher as he stands in front of me. Looking me in the eye, my lips tremble as I try to tell him how sorry I am, and I fall on my knees, sobbing, "I'm sorry, Father." I try to say, but freeze the moment he hugs me. "I know, son, I know you didn't know," he says, and, for the second time, my heart stops. He doesn't know? I immediately pull back, looking at him as I realize I might have been ahead of myself. I might still survive this. Is she really hexed? I ask, even though I know by the way the guards were dragging her that they know she's a witch. They wouldn't handle a person who was hexed like that, especially a princess, who she is now, since being married to me. She's not hexed, son. She's a witch. What? I ask, feigning shock, my hands still trembling from the real trauma of thinking I was discovered. I was shocked myself and maybe would not have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, he says, and I notice a hurt look in his eyes as they moisten. Saying the last part, he helps me to my feet and we sit on the bed. "I'm sorry I kept you here in the dark. I intended to come to you last night already. I was only keeping you here for your safety. Please forgive me," he adds, glancing at the dried blood on my clothes from when I made the attempt on my heart before pulling me into a tight hug. "There's nothing to forgive, Father," I tell him, tightening my arms around him a few minutes ago. "I never thought I'd ever feel this again. There's something I need to tell you. It's how I came to know about the witch. I wanted to just show you, but he had to leave the palace, which I'm very upset about and will only probably get here tonight," he says, causing my eyes to widen before tightly drawing my lips back, trying to hide my enraged state as a conversation I had with one of my men yesterday morning comes into my mind. I should have put everything on hold and taken care of it first. I was so eager to get crowned. I became my own downfall. One of my men called saying it wasn't yet confirmed, but Vance might be alive. It didn't make sense how he survived the explosion and what he'd be doing in Nova, so I told him we will discuss it further after the crowing. He must be the man my father's talking about. He must have shown him the videos of Cora, but why didn't he say anything about me knowing? He must want something. He's going to die for this time. As I want to be the one taking his life, he'll wish he'd died for real the first time. My father takes my hand in his, snapping me out of my thoughts, and I look at him to find his lips stretching into a sad smile, his eyes quickly filling with intense emotion. "Your brother is alive. Ares is alive," he says, a tear now escaping his eye, and everything stops. I start feeling dizzy. Glad I'm sitting down, but my hands immediately fly to my chest as I start struggling to breathe, before feeling all my strength draining out of my body as I collapse in his arms. My lights go out. "You're all right. You're okay," I hear my father's voice say, and I open my eyes, disoriented, but he holds me down slowly, he says, helping me sit up, and I notice we are no longer in the cell, but in my bedroom. "What happened?" I start to ask, but everything comes crashing back and my eyes widen. "Breathe," the doctor says, and I do as told. How's that possible?" I ask my father, feeling a slight tremble in my hands, and he quickly takes them in his before nodding to the doctor, who bows and leaves us alone. He tells me everything, and I bury my hands in my hair as I get to my feet and walk towards the window. Stunned, "Ares is alive," I whisper before feeling father's hand on my shoulder. "He is, son. The gods have brought him back to us." Ares. I get off the elevator and head straight to my room, but my eyes widen as I walk inside to find my father and Nolan sitting on my bed, causing me to stand rooted in my spot. "Hello, brother," Nolan says, his voice breaking before walking up to me, and we engulf each other in a hug as we both become a sobbing mess. "I missed you so much," he says, pulling back and cupping my face after a long moment. "I love you," I reply, and we embrace each other in a tight hug again. We eventually pull back, and I apologize for not seeing him first before I went to Nova. Causing my father to narrow his eyes at me. I apologize to him too, and he tells me he's not upset because I left. He knows nothing could have kept me from leaving. He's upset that I didn't let him know. I apologize again and assure him it will not happen again. Nolan has a lot of questions about what happened, understandably, so I tell him everything, and he's shocked that I've been a hybrid all this time, and hurt by the fact that father and I never told him, but we explained to him and he ends up forgiving us. They ask me about Nova. Nolan shocked to hear she's my mate, and I tell them, also taking the opportunity to tell my father that I want to marry her, and I want to do it as quickly as possible. Hell, if I had my way, I'd have brought her back with me and married her today, but there's a tradition to follow. I have to ask my father first, then her father, before I can even propose to my mate. The tradition is outdated, but breaking it wouldn't just affect me, but her too, as her parents might take offense, and I don't want that. I don't want them to feel like I do as I please, especially since I outrank them and they wouldn't be able to do anything even if I did. But we had a rocky start, and I want us to start over. My father gives me his blessings immediately, and now I just have to ask Nova's father. But first I have to get her a ring. A smile makes its way onto my face at that, but it doesn't last long as my father brings up the topic of Cora. I don't have anything to say to Cora. All I want is for the council to be called and for her to meet her end for the crimes committed against me and my father's house. But Nolan suggests that we let him speak with her. He tells us that when he fainted it was like a spell was lifting off of him and he had some visions of other witches. My father and I are shocked, and he says he suspects these witches to be related to Cora. I suggest for Cora to be tortured until she gives up all these other witches, but Nolan suggests it's risky and might not work, and that he has a plan that might be better. He says he can get Cora to reveal if there are other witches, and that we must take him to her and let him speak to her alone. I'm pissed at Cora for what she did to me. She killed Atticus. She took my heart. And now I will never be myself again. I will never be whole again. But we are not the only victims of her maliciousness. Nolan is too. She bewitched him and used him as a pawn, so he deserves to have a say in how we proceed. My father mind links the guard in charge of where she's kept, and Nolan leaves with him to go speak to Cora while I take a much-needed shower. 9 witches. Cora. I hear the sound of the keys against the bars, but I don't even look. It's probably the guards coming to fetch me for execution. Cora. I hear Nolan's voice and I look up, a surprised look on my face. How is he here? How is he not locked up in a cell? I blink a few times, looking behind him, my eyes puffy and sore from crying all night, but there's no one, and I get up, burying myself against his chest, the tears coming out of my eyes, burning like salt water on fresh wounds. He holds me as I clutch his shirt, still cuffed with the hex cuffs. You need to help me, Nolan, please get me out of here. I beg him between the sobs, and he pulls back, placing his hands on my shoulders. How did they discover me and not him? Ares is alive, Cora, he says, turning my face into a confused frown. Wawa dash. He was never dead when you killed him. You only killed the wolf part of him, he continues, making me look at him more confused, as he's not making any sense. What does he mean? I only killed the wolf part of him? What other part of him is there? He's a hybrid, or at least he was, he adds, but I couldn't have heard him right, so I look into his eyes, searching for signs that he's not serious, but find none. What? I finally whisper, leaning away from him. He was half vampire, half lichen, Cora, and when you removed his heart, you only killed his lichen. He's also the vampire we've been hunting, he adds, and I stagger backward, my brain not able to comprehend what he's telling me. Look, I can't do anything for you. It's over for you, Cora, but they don't know about me, and I've come to ask you to keep it that way, he says, and I look at him in disbelief. His selfishness really knows no bounds. I'm about to be burned alive for something we did together, and instead of getting me out of here, he's here to ask me to die alone? Why in the hell would I do that? You should have removed his head, Cora, you should have made sure, he adds, and I feel something stir in the pit of my stomach at his statement, causing me to sit down on the bed. having no strength to stand as a sudden surge of rage washes over me. How dare he? How dare he stand here and demand that I take the fall because this is my fault? How was I supposed to know he's a hybrid? He was not my brother, but he's the one who did this. He's the one who was supposed to know. Really? You're really doing that to me right now? You're saying you told me so? Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted to be caught? How the hell was I supposed to know? You are the one to blame for this. You are the one who supplied me with insufficient information. You should be the one here right now. You're the one who screwed up all my life. All my sweat and blood is for nothing because of you. And you have the audacity to stand here and tell me I must take the fall alone because it's my fault. Go to hell. I'm telling the next guard who walks through that door that you were involved. Nolan. Okay, asterisk, you're right, I'm sorry. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying this is your fault. Cora, he says, sitting down next to me. Look, if there was any way of getting you out of here, I really would, but there isn't. Fine. Then the two of us die together. Don't you mean all 10 of us? He says, causing me to look at him, not knowing what he's talking about. If you tell the king I was involved, I'm going to tell them about your sisters, and they'll die too. What dash? However, asterisk, he continues, getting to his feet, if you don't tell, I will continue what we started. I will wait for all of this to die down, and then I will make sure Ares really meets his end, and I will become king, and together with your sisters we'll burn these fucking lichens together. He adds, kneeling in front of me, taking my hands in his. I know you want to live. I know you're scared, and I know it's hard to hear this, but I will not lie to you. Not right now. You can't make it out of this alive. Yes. You can sing to the king and tell him all about my involvement, and maybe he'll believe you and execute me too, along with your sisters. Or maybe he'll believe that I was bewitched, therefore had no knowledge of what I was doing, and I'll survive and carry on with my mission. But you will get nothing. You and your whole family will be dead, and everything you've done, all of it will be in vain, he says. And I look into his eyes to find nothing but treachery lurking as tears trail down my eyes. You're right, I screwed up too. I didn't know the Silvers as much as I thought I did, but all is not lost. I can still salvage this situation, but you have to make one last sacrifice. You've dedicated your life to keeping your promise to your people, and you're almost there. Just trust me this final time. I promise I won't let you down. Cora, I've been a king for months now. Even if it wasn't official, I felt how it feels like. I felt that power, and now I want it more than ever. I will not go back to being a nobody. Cos, that is what I am when Ares is alive. He adds before letting go of my hands and straightening up. I don't trust Nolan. I don't trust that he'll keep his word, but I don't feel like I have much of a choice, as much as it pains me to admit. He's right. I don't have any guarantees that Anselm will believe or that he'll listen to me, and I don't want my family to die. Taking Nolan down with me will give me satisfaction, but is it worth it? No. Okay, I will not tell Anselm about your involvement. I'll protect you. But if you betray me, you will never know peace. I will haunt you for the rest of your life. I won't betray you, Cora, he says before pulling me into a hug. I will need their location so I can go to them and make sure they don't try anything when the news of your arrest reaches them, he says. And I tell him where they are. Thank you, he mutters, pulling back, but next I see stars as I hit the ground before everything goes black. Ares. What the dash, I whisper, sitting up straight from my leaning back position as my brother walks inside my room, covered in blood. My love, I'm going to have to call you back, I tell Nova, and hang up before she can reply, shocked by the scene in front of me. What happened? Whose blood is this? I ask, walking up to him after tossing the phone on the bed. Chorus. What? You killed her? No, but I should have. I cut her tongue off, he says, shocking me. Why would he cut off her tongue? What? Why? I ask as he slides down to the floor. She started chanting, Brother Ann, and I could feel the headache. I could feel it. I'm sorry, he says, tears trailing down his face, and I follow him to my knees before pulling him into a hug. You have nothing to be sorry for, I tell him, tightening my arms around him. And just then, my father walks in. The look on his face telling me he knows what happened. We pull back from the hug and Nolan tells him what she did, and although she still had to be questioned, my father understands Cora has the hex cuffs on, which means there's no way she could have been able to do anything to him. It's the reason father allowed him to go see her alone in the first place. He would never have done that if he thought she was still a threat, but it can't be easy finding out you were mind controlled for my months. Anyone would lose it. He tells us the witches in his vision were real and he was able to find out where they are. My father and I are shocked by the news. 9 witches living undetected right under our noses. I take him to his room to go clean up, and my father heads to the Grand Elder to inform him of the latest developments. He also mind links Mateus and asks him to set up a meeting with the guards. They'll have to get Cora's sisters tonight, and their punishment will be carried out tomorrow. I just want this whole thing to be done and over with, so I can start moving on with my life. 2 weeks later. Nova. I sigh, plopping on the bed after mind linking Anna, bidding her good night. We are currently in Silvera. It's now 10 p.m. and we arrived about 45 minutes ago. Ares and his brother, together with a handful of guards, fetched us from the airport. The king was waiting on our arrival to welcome us, but Anna and I were shortly escorted to our rooms, and we left my parents with Ares and his father still conversing. My parents and I are back on good terms. They have shown me nothing but love and support since I've been back. We spoke about everything that happened and we decided to put everything behind us. My mother even wanted to organize for me to see someone, but I told her there was no need. She was very proud to find out I hadn't lost my virtue even though I had been living with Ares for months. She cried. The traitorous wolves who turned against their king were put down. It was hard for my father to put them down since he had done them wrong first. But he had no choice. If he let it slide, it would have made him look weak and would have sent out the wrong message. I was guilt-ridden too. After all, my father was trying to protect me. Luckily, the allegations never reached the council, so he didn't have to answer to them. We also found out that Vance's real name was Armand Hagen, Kellen's older cousin. His father was King Tobias's older brother, who died when Vance was just a baby. Vance wasn't interested in keeping my father's kingdom. He wanted to use it as a stepping stone to get the throne of Brakendal. Councilman Grayson was his ally, and the council is doing an internal investigation to determine if he was the only one listening to my father as he explained everything. I realized that Vance had more claim to the throne than Kellen. Vance should have been the one sitting on the throne, not King Tobias, but he went about it the wrong way. I'm tired, but it's so hard to sleep knowing Ares is in the same house. I know we can't spend a night together, but I miss him so much. Ares and I haven't seen each other since that day with Vance, but we've spoken every day for the past 2 weeks. The king extended us the invitation last week already, and this week was the longest week of my life. I was going out of my mind, but I understand Ares had a lot on his plate. From executing the 9 witches behind his death to notifying the public that he was alive and that his death was a mistake. It's been meeting after meeting for him, and his family missed him too. I still can't believe he's been Ares Silver all this time. All this formality is hard. I wanted to kiss him so badly when he came to fetch us at the airport. I literally had to allow my claws to surface and dig into my palms so the pain could distract me from my thoughts. And now, for the past 35 minutes, I've been sitting here hoping he sneaks into my room, like in the movies, but it doesn't look like he will. I might as well put on my pajamas and try to sleep. After changing and washing my face, I climb on the massive bed and get in between the sheets. And despite my earlier thoughts, it doesn't take me long to fall asleep. Brother. Anselm. 3 days later. Damn it. I cuss, stumbling on a rock after getting through the fence. Noticing that my leaken vision and strength are gone. I'm just a man now, and it's bloody difficult to see in the middle of this thick forest. How does one even choose to live in a place like this? After walking for a while, I can hear a waterfall, and I know I'm close. The waterfall's behind the house. I reach a clearing, and I see a faint light in the distance, and I know it's the house. The closer I get, the clearer it becomes, but the slower I start to walk. I don't know what booby traps are out here. This place is giving me shivers. The house is in bad condition too. Like no one's living in it, I walk up to the door, moving the vines out of my way, and I raise my fist to knock, but the door creaks open before I do, and it looks dark inside. I have been expecting you, Anselm Silver, a woman's voice says. Surprising me, there's no doubt she felt me coming because she stripped me of my strength, but how was she expecting me? I slowly push the door open, but my eyes widen when I step inside to find a normal house. It's not modern, but it's nothing like the outside. You're late, she says, appearing from behind the blinds, but I gape, taking in her appearance. What? You were expecting a wrinkly old crow? She taunts, gesturing for me to sit down. And I do. She has long red hair that flows past her waist and is wearing a long black dress with deep cuts on the side, exposing her bare legs on the rug. Your Majesty, she says, and I get off the chair and do as she says, crossing my legs in front of me as she has now done. Trust me, you do not want to see me that way, she says, causing me to gape shocked before quickly trying to clear my thoughts. The only thing I've been thinking about is how old she should be. I open my mouth to tell her why I've sought her out, but she knows before I do, and she asks me where he is. I tell him I left him at home. I wanted to find her first and make sure she really can help him before I told him I didn't want to raise his hopes for nothing. Emelina was my grandfather's sorceress during the exiling of the vampires and witches. My grandfather had to exile her too. But he didn't. She, however, chose to go and live out the remainder of her days in peace. She was grateful for my grandfather's kindness. He never treated her like a servant, but as if family. So she gave my grandfather a parting gift. She gave him some of her blood and told him if he ever needed her, he must put a drop of it under his tongue and it would show him the way. But it had to be a matter of life or death, or the blood would not show the way. My grandfather gave the vial to me before he died and told me what she had said, and in all these years, I have never had the reason to use it until now, and I thought it would not work since it had been decades since then, but I was desperate for my son, so I used it, and to my surprise, it worked. But I didn't expect to find a woman who looks to be in her late 20s. I'm snapped out of my thoughts when she suddenly places her hands on my temples before removing them. Shivering as if my skin burned her, I ask her what it is and she whispers traitor, confusing me before telling me to come back with my son. Nova. 7 days later. I love you, I mutter, sitting on Ares's lap before wrapping my arms around his neck. Ares sent for me yesterday morning, and I arrived here last night. The king is taking him to a witch, who's going to put back his heart. This is scaring me just as much as it is him. I have never heard of such. I can't go with Ares, but I will wait here for him. His father said it's going to take 3 days for him to wake up after it's done, and when he does, he's going to have his leakin again. He's going to be as he was, but we are both terrified. He asked me if he should do it and told me if I said no, he wouldn't do it, and I wanted to say no so bad. I'd rather have him as a vampire than not have him at all, but I know he'll be happier if he got his leakin back. I know he misses him. He left a void inside of him and he acts like it's fine, but I know deep down it hurts, especially since his heart is here, serving as a reminder of what happened. So if there's a chance for him to be whole again, I won't stop him from taking it. It's going to be okay, and I'll be right here waiting for you when you return, I tell him, placing a kiss at the top of his head. I love you, I tell him again, and we share a long, passionate but tender kiss. I love you, he says as we pull back. And just then, his brother knocks before coming inside. He tells us his father's waiting, and we get up and head downstairs. His brother doesn't know about the witch, only Ares, his father, and now me know. As far as Nolan's concerned, Ares and his father have been invited by the higher council for matters involving his crowning the week after next week. We share a kiss again before he enters the car, and Nolan and I stand for a bit, watching them drive away. A tear trails down my cheek, but I quickly wipe it off, not wanting Nolan to see me cry. Are you okay? I hear him ask, and I nod, quickly fixing my face before looking at him, and he nods, gesturing for me to lead the way as we head back inside. I've also sent for Lydia and Kian. I miss them. They were here the morning Aries proposed, but I couldn't really spend any time with them. We had to prepare for a press conference the following day, and Aries and I went out on a romantic date since we were now engaged and could spend time together. And my parents and I left later that evening, so I didn't have time to catch up with them. Plus, I need Lydia right now. Even if I can't tell her everything, talking to her is easier than talking to my mother. I would go to them, but we can't go anywhere without being hounded down by reporters, and I don't want to throw them into that madness. At least when I send for them, the guards manage to sneak them in without causing a fuss. Anselm. 17 days later. Have some tea, Emelina says to Nova. But she shakes her head and no, I can't stomach anything right now, she adds, placing her head back on Aries's arm again while I'm trying to hold back the tears that want to fall. Exhausted, I have prayed. I have screamed at Emelina. I have done everything, but he still won't wake up. I won't be able to live with myself. If my son was returned to me only for me to kill him, I should just have let him be. But I couldn't. Without even trying to help him. What that witch did to him was wrong, and I saw the pain in his eyes when I spoke to him about it. He felt incomplete, and I just wanted him to feel whole again. I was trying to give him his life back. I sent for Nova to be brought here 4 days ago, hoping maybe when she's here next to him, he'll wake up, but there have been no changes. Emelina told me Aries was going to wake up after 3 days of drinking the potion, and his heart will once again beat in his chest, but he hasn't. She didn't cut him or anything like that. His heart is still in the bucket, and I don't understand how it's going to go back to him, but she said not to question her in her house, and now this. I get up and head outside feeling like I need a moment. I can't fall apart. Not now. Aries. Father? I hear my father's voice calling for me on the other side of the door, causing me to open my eyes. I realize the voice has been calling for a while now, but I thought I was dreaming. Why is he calling and not knocking? I get up from the bed, not even turning my bedside light on, and open my door, but there's no one. What the hell? I mutter, stepping out of my room and looking down the corridor, but seeing nothing. I must have heard wrong, but I could swear I heard him. I get inside my room, but hear him again just as I step away from the door. After closing it, my face immediately turns into a frown again as I open the door and step out, but my frown deepens when I see him rushing around the corner. The corridor is not lit, but I can still see with my vampire vision of Father. What's going on? I ask, following behind him, and I find him standing in front of Nolan's door as I emerge around the corner. What's going on? I ask again, walking up to him, but stop when he turns around, my eyes widening. It's not my father. It's my great-grandfather. I've never met him, but there are portraits of him in the palace. He's the one I saw in my dream on the boat that night when we arrived here, but I didn't know him then, since I didn't have my memory. Shh. He cuts me off, placing his index finger on his lips as I try to speak, and just then Nolan's door opens, and he enters. I take slow steps, confused as I follow him in, but my eyes widen when I enter, only to find Nolan inside, pacing up and down like he's stressed. Brother, what's going on? I ask, walking up to him, but he doesn't respond. He doesn't even acknowledge me. Nolan? I call him again, but gasp when I try to touch him and my hand goes through him. What the hell? I mutter, staggering back, staring at my hands before trying to touch him again, but I still can't. Am I dead? Is that why I'm seeing my great-grandfather? 'Cause I'm dead? I start freaking out and call him again, trying to touch him, but there's a knock on the door causing me to stop and turn to it. He rushes to it, walking through me like I'm not even there. Damn it. What took you so long? Is it done? He asks as Cora steps inside. What the hell? She's carrying what looks to be a bucket. It's done, Cora replies, putting the metal pail on the table, and it looks exactly like the one she kept my heart in. Finally, he says, taking the lid off, and just then I hear it beating, causing me to take slow steps, advancing to them. Are you sure it's not going to stop? He asks, now looking at her. It won't. Not as long as you follow the instructions I gave you, she replies, and he seals the pail again just as I stop in front of them, causing the beating to stop, but I know it's my heart. Why is she giving it to him? What is this? Here. She hands him a ring. Remember never to take it off. Nolan? What's going on? What is this? I ask, trying to grab him by the shoulders and turn him to face me, but they still can't hear me, and I stagger backward as I start to realize what's happening. No, it can't be true. He would never do that to me. He's my brother. He would never betray me like that. I won't, he replies, slipping the ring on his finger as I reach for the bucket, trying to open it, but I can't. They carry on talking, but I don't hear them. I try to open the bucket as tears start flowing from my eyes. It has to be a mistake, some type of nightmare, but just then someone grabs me by my shoulders before I hear him speak. Listen, he says, and I freeze, my eyes wide open, looking at them without blinking and unable to move. You're right, I'm sorry. I'm paranoid. We grew up together, Cora. We may not have had the same blood running in our veins, but he was always a brother to me. And yet you plotted his death. That's father's fault for insisting on making a weakling king. Ares didn't have the stomach for this. He didn't even want to be king. That in itself proves just how unworthy he was, or is. I don't know. Do we speak of him in the present or past tense? Since, you know, his heart is still beating? He says, and the grip on my shoulders loosens, and I fall on my knees. No. No. It can't be true. There has to be an explanation. It can't be true. Nolan loves me. He would never do that to me. He's my brother. I love him.